Well, hey, rail fans and model railroaders. Welcome back to another episode of Getting Back on Track with Steve
and Roxy. So last episode, we went ahead and laid a whole bunch of cork around the upper elevation for the second main line and on the peninsula. So this week, it's time to get after laying some track.
In particular, we're going to get after from the right-hand side where we have our switching area before you hit the swing bridge. We're going to come around the curve. We want to lay track on that upper elevation all the way across the top, which means adding 2 new turnouts. So with that being said, let's get this work done. Before we can begin to lay track, we need to make sure to smooth out all the joints and the turnout areas, as well as clean up the edges of the cork. I've found that a sanding sponge that I would use for drywall work works great for this purpose. This cork, when you split the 2 pieces in half and lay it in there, one side of it is nice and smooth and the other side is pretty rough. So I always make sure to get the rough side to the back side, because you're not going to see that side as clearly all the time. But I'm still going to pay attention and try to get them as smooth as I can. And the block works pretty well to do that. This is a lot of cork to sand this time. Then as a final sand, I'm going to use a block of wood and 220 grit sandpaper just to make sure that I'm nice and flat. Then after a final vacuum, I'll clean the whole area up because I want to make sure I don't end up with pieces of cork underneath the track. When I'm joining pieces of flex track for a curve, I want to make sure I'm staggering the joints so I don't end up with any kinks in the rail as I get around the curve. I also make sure to use my template to keep it straight as I'm soldering it up. So then I use a acrylic latex caulk, put a bead down, spread it nice and thin before laying the track out. The caulk will cure dry and it'll be clear once it dries. So then I just follow the center line of my cork, pin my track into place, and I'm going to use plenty of pins to secure it and make sure it remains flat. When I get down around to the turnout area, I'm going to measure where the turnout starts. I'm going to trim my rail, and I want to make sure to file it to get rid of any burrs, add my rail joiners, and then place my turnout in. And once again, this caulk will dry clear, so it won't be so noticeable once it's there. And then the rail ties that I removed can be placed back before we ballast. So here I'm not curving, so I don't need to stagger the joints in this area, but I remove a couple of ties off each end so I can get rail joiners in place. I'm going to cut it to fit to the turnout and make sure to file everywhere I cut, get rid of the burrs. Then I'll solder this track together, and I'll use the same method to place this down. Some acrylic caulk, then I'll spread it thin. Then I'll put my piece of track in, join it up to the turnout on one side. And I'm using a 1/8 inch piece of Luan to make sure that I hold my track straight so I don't end up all wavy going across here. And I'm going to use plenty of pins to make sure that it stays flat and in place. Now I can set the last turnout and I'm done.
Well, there you go. We're motoring along with that track work. We went from over by the swing bridge at the switching area, around the corner, laid track, and we cut it, fit it, we soldered it, got it all glued and fastened into place, and added those 2 new turnouts.
So we're excited because tomorrow that means we get to go off of those 2 new turnouts and lay all the track around the peninsula.
That's going to be exciting. So it's going to be great. So with that being said, you guys have a great time working on your layouts, running your trains.
Make sure you hit like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of our next video.
And we'll see you again here next time on Getting Back on Track with Steve
And Roxy.
Bye, all.
Bye.